Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show. Jack Chow, your host on the ICT TV. Today, once again, we have a big news to break. And it's really the breaking news, really the big one. A few days ago when we were talking about the same subject, it was premature because we were in the preparation, cause for it, in the process of it. Now it's becoming the law of the United States of America, signed by President Donald Trump. And with me today for the news breaking, for lady first, well, you deserve to be first by whatever you have done so far, either way, plus you're female, right? I have my dear friend, my dear sister, Betty Tom Chu. She is right now, she is a senior member of the Orange County Citizen Alliance, and she is an advocate for lots of positive things, issues that we will later into the show let you know one by one. Former mayor of city of Monterey Park, now she is a proud member of the OC Citizen Alliance, Betty Tom Chu.
Thank you, Jack.
Welcome to the show.
We are here to celebrate a historical event for the Chinese American community.
Sure.
And the president of the Orange County Chinese American Citizens Alliance is going to convey our appreciation for that.
That means Zhang Ji to her left-hand side. I know Zhang Ji for many years. He's a wonderful man, very humble man. You seldom see him on the platform by a podium shouting slogans. You more often see him, well, doing the hard job. So that's how you impress me. All right, John, you're a great man too. On the day of a big celebration like today, I really have to recognize that. Right? So you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Well,
and to my left-hand side is my dear brother, by the same mother, Mark Ng. He is the founder and the CEO of Asian Industry B2B, a very big organization that connects people. Also, he is a member of, active member and a senior member, one of the senior members of Orange County Citizen Alliance. You are welcome, sir, to the show.
Thank you, Jack.
And the last thing is me. I'm a man, a father of two. Well, you're a host. I love doing my job. It is not only a job, it is a privilege, because right now I'm the one doing the premiere of such a big thing, historical event for 76 years or 77 years in history. That is, please, what is that today?
What is that today, John?
Why are we here today, John?
We are here today.
All right.
Here
goes the official announcement.
Announce that the President of the United States has signed a bill that honors Chinese American World War II veterans for their exceptional service and sacrifice to the United States of America. And this is significant. So our President, the Honorable Donald J. Trump, who is in this case just because he recognizes with his signature the bill that honors these veterans.
Mm-hmm.
It is now a new United States law signed yesterday, while some of our Chinese American World War II veterans are still alive. So we want to express our deep appreciation for the President. We also want to acknowledge retiring Congressman Ed Royce, who sponsored the congressional bill at the beginning.
That's him. That's him. My dear friend too. You know, I told you it's a privilege doing this job because I have this kind of a big friends, and in addition to Betty Tom Chu, right? We thank him, Congressman Ed Royce for his 30 years of wonderful service, at the end of which he did a historical thing. He was the one that introduced the bill, processed the bill, pushed the bill to be today. We will go into the details. Ed, thank you very much. Here's your brother saluting to you.
And it's significant that Ed did this because he was the chairman of the Foreign Relations Commission.
Mm-hmm.
We also want to thank Young Kim, who was one of his key staff members who also ran for his seat.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very helpful in helping us identify how and where to push this thing forward.
I knew for the same thing that the Filipino American soldiers, I mean the veterans, and those who died for the same thing, took them 10 years, right? In this case, only 2.
Well,
from
in
2016.
one session, in the same session,
mm-hmm.
which is an extraordinary accomplishment. And the accomplishment also, in this accomplishment, we also have to appreciate Senators Tammy Duckworth and Senator Tad Cochran,
who did the mirror part.
Who did it on the Senate side. And so it is important that we recognize these people. And we'll talk about a little bit later what the great significance of
Yeah,
this.
we will. And Mark, to the opening of this discussion, I would like to hear from you because you are so important to me, to the issue, to everything.
Absolutely. I'm just very happy to work with, former Assemblywoman Young Kim and Congressman Ed Royce to push this through. This, to me, Young understands the significance of this to our Chinese veterans, and she didn't take it lightly. She went and pushed this forward and really made sure that it got on the president's desk and this legislation moved through. Because you'll hear today, it's a process. It's not just, oh, you write a bill and then it gets passed. I mean, so many bills get written and do not get passed. But I also really want to shine the light on John G. here. Like you said, he's a very humble man.
Very
and
humble,
he,
yeah.
It's terribly understated that he was the one who authored this bill in a large part, with edits from Betty Tom Chu and some of our ad hoc steering committee, but really John G. was the core of this bill. So it's a very proud moment for us and the Chinese American Citizens Alliance Orange County Lodge.
Obviously, it's a teamwork. It's wonderful team efforts, right? But to do the opening speech, though, I really need to hear something from you.
Well, we are here primarily to celebrate with our Chinese American community. But the reason why this event is so important that we are here today is that it's an example of how when the Chinese American community gets together, that they can get things done for their community, but only with the help of those elected officials who have the same principles and the interests of our Chinese American community. And that's why it's important to let all of the viewers know it's important to register to vote, and to vote for those elected officials, not because you're told to, but who have the interests of our Chinese American community in actions, not just in words, not just when they appear at fundraisers to get our money.
And the way I also see that is a fair play, because our recognition, the Chinese American soldiers, they're veterans, and there are many who never made it. There are many who never came back home. And 2 days ago, we did a show talking about Christmas Hill, and it's a day to come home for celebration. They never came back. They're still there. Some are still missing, right?
Yes.
Now, that includes everybody, includes the Chinese American veterans. When we say veterans, we refer to those who are lucky to be still alive.
Yes.
And yet, according to my study, there was less than a handful. Yesterday, I called, immediately after you called me. You called me about 3 o'clock because Donald Trump signed the bill at about 2 o'clock New York time. You called me about 3 in the afternoon, Los Angeles time. I called Jerry Chen, the only one I knew who had been the Chinese-American veteran. Well, the call was not picked up. And by 10:30 last night, he called back in a very, very weakening voice, says, I'm sick, I'm in bed. I said, how old are you this year? 93. And I broke the news to him. He started crying.
Oh, how wonderful.
I said, can you manage to have your family bring you here? I can't move. He says, I can't move. But he is excited. And by the way, he asked me to convey the message to you guys who are members of the proud team who has done so beautifully, so historically, so significantly for such a big move, of his deep, heartfelt appreciation.
We will be sure to make sure that members of our team will be visiting him with a replica medal when the mint actually
there's
makes
one
the
he
medal.
mentioned, and he said, I don't know if he's still alive. If he is 101.
Wow.
101.
There are still 3 members of the American Legion post down in Chinatown that are World War II veterans.
Mark, the more we talk about that part, the more we appreciative we become, because it's so timely. So timely. It's an overdue issue. Long way overdue issue. That, thank God, there are still few alive. Otherwise, we'll be talking, hey guys, where are you?
And I think it's still important to honor, obviously, better late than never, right? But the people that, that have passed, the veterans that have passed, their families will feel very honored as well about this.
Exactly. Those are heroes, every single one of heroes. I have a quote from Private Martin for World War I that I use as a model in my office. You can still see the hole there?
Oh.
It'll stick to my wall. He was a soldier of World War I, even though, but what he says, as his pledge, represents every soldier who fought, regardless of fallen or alive or survived, the mindset of each of the service members. He said, America must win this war. I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice. I will endure. I will fight cheerfully and do my utmost, as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone.
And I think that is why many of our Chinese Americans who were discriminated against when they first tried to enlist in the war. Isn't that right,
Yes.
John?
No longer. That day is gone.
Yes.
So we have the gold medal here.
Yes.
Right.
But John can explain what happened when those Chinese American veterans tried to enlist in the war.
Let's take a short moment. We really want to stretch on that preparation part because it's a long process. Somebody else took 10 years. Even 2 years is too long. For me, when I read this, I cried. To them, even 2 days is too long, right?
Yes.
Okay, my dear friends, let's take a moment. We'll be right back. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences, my dear fellow Americans. Welcome back to the big celebration, especially if you haven't happened to be Chinese Americans. Please, you are especially welcome back to the discussion about a great honor that has been given by President Donald Trump on behalf of the United States of America, the #1 nation on the global earth, on the planet Earth, that we are recognized, that the days of discrimination has passed, that we started to honor those guys who died, who sacrificed so cheerfully, willingly, who did their utmost, who took the war as if the whole matter, whole issue is upon me and myself alone. That kind of spirit. What a glorious spirit, right? Okay, now, with that mention, the more we talk about it, the more we want to think about the beginning of it, the initiation, the process, the endurance, so on and so forth, right? So I would like to turn this question to John. How did it start in the first place?
Well, actually, we need to let me tell Betty's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Is that she was up in the inaugural in 2016 January.
Oh, inauguration you went.
Yes, and they were talking and they were discussing things about Chinese Americans. And Ed Royce, I believe, said, you know, I would really like to do a bill that would honor Chinese American veterans of World War II. And he said, can you help me?
See, Ed Royce's father served under General Patton in World War II. That's why he is so passionate, and he is one of the ones that actually moved the funding for the World War II monument in Washington, D.C.
I see.
So, of course, Betty said, well, yeah, we'll get on it. And then he said, well, you know, we have to write a bill. So Betty comes back and says, do you know how to write a bill? I said, well, yeah, I've written a few. When I worked for the county fire department, I was head of legislative advocacy and analysis. So I've written a number of California bills and 1 or 2 congressional bills. And I had the model of the Filipinos' effort. So, but what was missing was history.
History, yes.
So I had to go back and look at history. And so we started in, I think, February. And we needed to get something done because they wanted to introduce it in
that was 2016. Okay.
17, right?
16. 16.
Yeah.
And they had to have a bill to submit. Well, we had to do some research. And so part of the research is how many Chinese Americans were in the United States, continental United States, and in Hawaii. And there's some debate. There's some debate, but they settled upon roughly 100,000.
That's the important part. That's the very important part.
Yeah, and the reason why there were only 100,000 was because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. So we can cover that later, but let's focus on this part. Then I found out that around 13,000 to 20,000 served. They served in the Air Force, they served in the Marine Corps. They
13 to 20.
13 to 20, because some of the records are not as definitive as they should be. So it was at least 13% of the population to 20% of the population. Give you a point of reference. For the general United States, it was only roughly 9.5% of the population served the United States in that war. And so, but you had to dig out a number of things about how they served. So you have, we detailed that. So let me give you 1 or 2 or 3 details. One of the people won the Distinguished Service Cross in the invasion of Lehi. He rallied the troops and moved off the beachhead. Well, it took him a few years, in 2006 or 7, I believe. It was upgraded to a Congressional Medal of Honor. Francis Y. Then you look at some of the other services. You know, there are a number of distinguished flying crosses that were awarded to the Los Angeles Chinese community. For instance, Judge Delbert Wong.
Yes, Judge Delbert.
He was a bombardier. He flew over Germany, and so they were on D-Day.
I met him once at a dinner party.
Yeah, they were on the beachhead in Normandy. They were in the Battle of the Bulge. They were in Iwo Jima and across the Pacific. They served in most of the naval battles. So that had to be outlined and put in the bill.
All right.
So we created the general language. Then and I knew that they would eliminate all of the heroics, but I wanted to make sure that there was justification from the heroics to move forward, so that those people who now took the bill from me to mirror it in the Senate would at least be exposed to. Now, I had a listing of 400 or so veterans with all where they served and so forth. It's only in Los Angeles. There's Boston. There's New York. There's, across the nation.
Yes.
But the records are not that good. So that's why 13,000 to 20,000. So after it was submitted, we submitted it in April. In May, it was finalized and submitted enrolled as a bill for both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Including the mirror.
Yeah, including the mirror. Because most of the language was complete. They needed to add things in.
So by May, it is ready.
Yes. And this, to me, was somewhat phenomenal if you know how bills migrate.
This only took us 3.5 months from the inauguration.
You told me about that last year, the year 2016.
Yes.
You said you're working on a bill.
Yes.
Right? So, all right. Now it's becoming reality.
Yes.
And but the 20,000 figure also has been adopted in the official records of the United States Army.
I see.
Yes,
I see.
Because the Army.
I would like to emphasize on that, my dear audiences. There are 13,000 to 20,000 Chinese Americans fought for the war, and it's been on record, official record. Yeah.
So because the records were not as complete for some of the other forces. For instance, a number of Chinese served in the Merchant Marines. Well, that doesn't, Merchant Marines, what were they? Well, they were the sailors on the freight ships. Okay, where did they serve? They served in the Atlantic. What was happening between 1941 through the end of the war? The Battle of the Atlantic, where the Germans would sink ships. They served on those ships. Some of them had their ships torpedoed from under them. So, but they were not fully accounted for in the 13,000.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Anyway. Okay. Let's fast forward it. Mark, on the side of, from your perspective, from the Asian B2B perspective, what was your involvement?
My involvement was really working with our friends who engage very heavily with our organization, like Young Kim and Congressman Ed Royce, and really kind of moving this along. John really captured the meat of a very important bill that was worthy of being moved along, and also that had some interest with our current 115th Congress, which is very important also to note that this Congress was friendly to veterans and to those who served in our military, and also to the Asian community. And that needs to be stressed very importantly. As an Asian community, I have seen that this Congress was more supportive and understanding of our needs than previous ones that were maybe more about lip service.
We start to feel that. How about that?
I'm
we
about
started
deeds,
to feel that, yeah.
Deeds and actions, not just words.
And I was even thinking about next recognition could be the railroad workers.
Yes.
Who came 1860 to help with the building.
And you know that at the joining of that railroad, where they built, they were the principal builders from the West Coast forward to meet. They were forcibly excluded from the picture of the union of it.
Yeah.
But here, let me go back and
let me tell you that the two of our committee ad hoc committee, steering committee members, Wilson Lee and his wife Esther Lee, have been very instrumental in working to have a float actually comprising of two separate floats to be in the world.
The train joining, right?
Yes.
The railway joining.
Show, and it will be at the Rose Parade this year.
We encourage volunteers to come next week. December 26th to December 30th, we welcome different shifts. So however little time you want to give or however much time, you can come and help us decorate the float.
All right. That's very good. Very good.
You were saying, John?
Well, you know, right now, Chinese Americans and other Asians are looked upon as the model community. And there is a misperception of sweetness and light going all the way back. But in accuracy, I don't want to say truth, accuracy, you have to consider that the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was a hostile, targeted, discriminatory law that triggered a number of other laws, so that the Chinese Americans near World War II were discriminated against. They had to go to separate schools. They could not own property. But the key here is they adopted this country. They are in this country, they are of this country, and they believe this country belonged to them. So if you look at my lapel, I have an American flag above Chinese American Citizens Alliance pen.
All right, that we should be.
Yes, but here is the analogy here. Even though they were dealt with hostilely, with premeditated ill will.
Let's take a
just
break
let me,
now. Yeah,
real
go ahead.
quick. They placed America first, and to serve
You're right.
and their best interest later.
It's a reverse thing. We'll come back for it. My dear friend, my lovely audience, today we're talking about a big news break that the congressional bill from both sides been signed by President Donald Trump into law of the United States of America. That's HR. No.
No, it is signed as S-1050.
Senate bill.
But it is a
Senate
joint
bill,
but
and and HR 2358
was the initial bill.
I see.
And it is now S-1050. It is a joint bill.
I see.
Signed by Congress. Yes,
all right.
Passed by Congress.
So we will be right back after this short break, please. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow, your host on the East West Show with ICT TV. We are on the big news, on the breaking news of a new law given birth to by the United States of America as of yesterday, that is the Gold Medal Act to the Chinese American veterans, right? A huge recognition, or overdue recognition, but so historical and so timely. When I say timely, I say lucky there are few still alive. Other than that, if you're late by the hours, by the days, by the hours, the numbers are reducing, right? So back to John, he was at some logic study by who comes first, who comes second, right? Now, there came the need for the railroad building, the Pan America, I mean, right? So there came the call. So we needed the laborers. We need the coolies. Right? So the coolies came, helped them building. And then when the railroad was finished, there came the Chinese Exclusion Act. And there came wartime, both World War I, World War II, where Chinese American soldiers fought shoulder to shoulder to fellow Americans. That really moved something, and Congress abolished the Chinese Exclusion Act. That's where John was. Go ahead.
Okay. But if we can capsulize it all, the Chinese, while really strenuously mistreated here, had a confident expectation that America's true spirit and justice would shine through. And you see that here today, that despite all of this, despite the past history, despite the people who have now benefited from the work of the pioneers, the frontiersmen from China, to go through all this hostility, that it is not lost on Congress that we served and we put America first, and that despite the injustice, we had a confident expectation that America was a fair and just country.
That's exactly a hit to the nail on the head. By the way, my dear audience and my guests, right, I would like to make one point clear, that I am not excited because Chinese Americans being recognized. I am excited about, finally, the United States are going towards being fair. When you recognize everybody. Unlike the picture at the railway joint, though, there was accidentally a Chinese face there, shot by some news agencies, whatever, carelessly. And then, after the first publication, they had to they use the word of a recent time where you
erase him.
Erase him. You want to no. There is the P word to whatever P it, right? To remove the face of the picture, and then for the second publication of that joint celebration, right? What a shame. Now, no longer that day. That day is gone. I am excited about that fact.
But in addition to that, as a Chinese American, I want China, and in today's world of events, I want China to remember that America was helpful to where China is now enjoying the prosperity that it has today. That's the significance of this bill, that China needs to listen to us and help us maintain world peace by helping negotiate with North Korea. They need to be fair and just with reference to the tariffs that we have helped in their economy. They need to recognize the fact that the South China Sea needs not to be built up as militarily,
and,
but to help.
I would put something on top. being fair play includes, the call being fair play includes everybody, right?
Yes.
And for your information, I want to let you know that China has never forgotten the United States. I have a friend who have shot at least 3 documentaries in China talking about how Americans helped aiding Chinese people fighting the Japanese war. And on the contrary, on the other side, when after bombing Tokyo of 1942, right, the 16 bombers, B-21.
P-25s.
No, B-21. I checked the historical record. It was 2 days ago. B-21, 16 of them, led by Colonel Doolittle, right? On way back, they have no fuel. The only area they can do is keep on flying, landed in China, right? And they lost 5. They lost 5, 8 are captured. All the 16 are landed on the Chinese soil, and the Chinese farmers help hide them from the Japanese.
Yes.
In revenge, Japanese looking for them in a crazy way. They slaughtered 2 whole villages, not leaving a dog alive. Not leaving a dog alive. Slaughtered the whole thing just for the revenge, and the farmers protected them. All right. There was one who died in the recovery of the wound, and the tomb is still there. And the families moved the remains away from the tomb back to the United States, leaving some costumes of his time in the tomb. And the tomb is being tributed every year on Qingming. You know Qingming? Qingming, the clear day, clear festive day, an April day.
That's like our Memorial Day.
Yeah, Memorial Day, right? And it's been visited and revisited every day. So at the people's level, the grassroots level,
yes,
there's never a word of forgetting, yes, right? At the top level, when they play politics, the same thing happens in the United States. They do the partisan fight. Who thinks about you guys help with a war, fight who fights who? I don't care. I care my political fight. I do the dog fight. I strangle you, you strangle me. Or on the other side, they do the favor persecution. So that's kind of thing. So now, that is the part I get excited. I do agree with you. We need to remind everybody, let's be fair. Let's not forget.
That's right.
Good point. All right, let's take a short moment now. We come back to continue. I have to ask you, Betty. I know that your group of people, wonderful group, have succeeded with the political issues, important issues, call it that way, not 1 time, not 2 times, not 3 times, but many times. Right? And also, I would like to check with you about what's next step. How do you actually get the medal, right? And do you duplicate for each of the surviving members, 5 or 3? Less than a handful anyway, right? So I'm going to ask you those details. How about that, right? We'll be right back. Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, you ladies and gentlemen, my dear fellow Americans. Excited as we are, we still want to make sure that we don't forget to make a call to our fellow Americans that you always keep in your mind. Nobody succeeds alone. No country succeeds alone. It is altogether a teamwork after all. Human race, if you look back into it from day one, it is teamwork. Until today, it is still teamwork. You have to work all together to achieve. I have good examples with me, with Betty Tom Chu, the former mayor of Monterey Park, former candidate for Congress, and former banker, and attorney. You're everything. You're everything. It looks to me you have led several lives. right, all right, and wonderful lady. I go back with her for more than 22 years. The other day I checked record. I did check record. Yes, I'm about to ask you some details, right? So now that we have the medal, do we have a verbal medal or do we have a medal, a physical medal?
We will have a physical gold medal made of gold that will be at the Smithsonian Institute. And we will also have the opportunity to purchase bronze replica medals to award to some of the veterans and their families.
I see.
The bill itself now specifically directs the Secretary of the Treasury, whom I believe is Secretary Mnuchin, to design and have the medal made up.
To actually use the gold.
Yes. And then the President Pro Tem of the Senate, who used to be Orrin Hatch, and since he will no longer be in the new Congress, the question is whoever that will be, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, as well as the Speaker of the House, will then be charged with having a decision on how to award these medals to honor the veterans.
Like a presentation ceremony, something.
Yes. We are hoping for an award ceremony that Mark Ang is now working with certain members to achieve. And
is there a time frame?
No, because the time frame is dependent upon when the Secretary of the Treasury
You can guess why I ask for the time frame, right?
You want to host it, Jack?
No. I can. I can, but I'm worried. I'm worried about the call last night.
Yes.
Yeah, call night. That guy was.
We are.
Jerry Chan was very weak, and
I am sure that when we can breathe a little bit and
push it.
But we need, yes, I think the administration is right now concentrating on getting funding for next year. And so beginning with the first of the year, we will be making the necessary contacts through Mark in order to indicate our sense of urgency on this matter. But I know that Mark is going to be organizing some events for those veterans that will not be able to travel. And we, of course, before we have the medals, we may even have a party to celebrate, to thank Congressman Royce and to thank former State Assemblywoman Young Kim.
I really doubt, well, the handful or less than a handful of them can travel or could travel unless you move some, hold some ceremony locally.
Yeah, and actually one of the things that we're going to add on top of it with the Asian Industry B2B is we're going to donate quilts to our specific Chinese veterans that are personalized. So it'll be a really nice, so we'll go to the veterans if needed, especially the ones that are more frail.
I'll volunteer to MC it.
Wonderful.
All right, so
you know, we haven't yet discussed it, but I think that if we were to move the medal along, instead of having the Treasury Department commission an artist, we should begin work on proposing a design and submitting it. And in that way, no, I mean, if you want a bill process quickly, you write the bill and hand it to somebody. They'll adjust it.
You're right.
So if you want the
you
medal,
have the expertise.
you need to create something for them to adjust.
I had already made a phone call on the way here this morning to make sure that I contact the person that helped do the medals for one of our county World War II veteran events. So we're going to ask him for ideas. in designing the
Criticize me if I'm being naive. I'm really worried about the aging thing, right? Is there any way you can advance it?
That's the key, yes.
I lost my sleep. I lost sleep last night after the call to Jerry Chan.
Well, you know, let me give you a reference point. The Vietnam Memorial took about 2.5 years to select a designer.
Yeah, the Filipino thing took 10 years.
Yeah, no,
right?
no, I mean just the designer, for the memorial, okay? So if we could get a design, a base design, and then have others adjust that design, you are at least 6 months ahead of the time.
Why don't you solicit some designs?
That's what Betty is going to do.
I have designers in my office. I have wonderful designers, top of the year on earth, and we can extend an invitation for them to submit their design. They are likely to do so.
We would love to do that, and
Yeah.
I think that Asian Industry B2B and the Orange County Chinese American Citizens Alliance would welcome designs and
Make it a random selection.
yes.
Make a random selection with the solicitation, say whoever, da 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 da.
Well,
it's a contribution
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, but you see,
didn't copy
this is so new, and I hadn't talked to them, but it occurred to me that if you really want to move this forward, submit a design that most people would agree to, and then go from there.
Yeah, that's why I say advance it.
Yeah, and that would advance it. And that would also, it's also consistent with the proactiveness of the historic Asian Americans, that we do not wait for government to process things. We
are
move
efficient.
forward,
All right.
and that's what we need to do.
That's a good
Well,
idea.
that's why our committee has been able to stop the California legislation from adopting SCA 5. We worked with,
You mentioned the SCA
Senator-
5 2 years ago?
Yes.
4 years ago?
Yes.
And that
Yes.
was to discriminate against Asians because there were too many of them going into certain colleges
That's a
based on
different-
merit.
That's a different version of Inclusive Act.
Yes, well, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, they
Yeah.
wanted to dumb
Different
down the
version of
standards to
Exclusive
get
Act.
other
Yeah.
people in there,
Very
you know?
good. I'll squeeze the time for Betty. I'm asking you, like I said just now, your group had been succeeded for several times, right?
Yes.
And the credentials are sky high. I really want to give the opportunity to you to let my audience know those wonderful people of your team what have done.
Now, we already talked about the Congressional Gold Medal for the Chinese American veterans of World War II. We also talked about the Transcontinental Railroad float, and we did the SCA 5 by working with Senator Bob Huff and Senator Lee Lin Yi. And we also authored and had introduced the California Senate Joint Resolution 23 and the Senate Concurrent Resolution 122, which is a California legislative apology from the legislature itself for the California Chinese exclusion laws that it passed.
That apology, yes.
And also, it requested Congress, California legislature requested Congress to issue its apology.
The congressional apology.
Yes, for the federal Chinese exclusion laws. So, and we also had worked with Senator Lee Lin Yi with the Health Department.
Back then.
Yes, in order to stop the discriminatory bill's effect on Chinese restaurants with reference to the Chinese noodles.
Okay.
And we also have worked with reference to talking about the, what do you call it? That we do not believe that if America does not enforce regulations and enforce its illegal immigration act, that it should not do so against the Chinese that are coming over here legally to have their baby, and they have their babies born here.
Oh, you mean the birthright?
The birthright. We worked with the police department, our local police department, to stop invading those spaces because it was not being fairly implemented, the law.
Quite a credential, quite a big credential. It is such, if every organization has done what you have done, I would say our days are much better. Our days will be much better. John G., my dear friend, so humble guy, never making a noise. He has done a great job. So great that, you know, we are celebrating. Mark Ng, the same quality, same
The future,
quality. The
working future.
That means you're a kid, all right? So please keep up with the hard work. We'll reward you. We'll reward you. And it is also an example, a role model for our young people, for our kids, right, to follow. Right now, like I like to use a quote from John G. Sounds like a master of words, that they adopted the country. You mentioned about the soldiers, right? And I would say the country adopted them. In my case, I adopted the country, and the United States adopted me. I'm a proud son of the United States now. So, should there be a call, I go serve. Oh, by the way, looking at my face, though, unless they need a commander, they will never need me. Right?
Well, but you do a very vital part.
Thank you very much.
Part of it, no, but it goes back to your citizenship oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
And
this is what you're doing on this show.
Exactly.
You are defending the United States.
Word to word. Word to word. Okay, now I do see the little hole here I told you, right? Why I put it as a model to myself, I emphasize to the last part, as if the issue of the whole struggle depends on me alone, right? And that's why you see me, you can testify over the years.
Yes.
SA5, right?
Yes.
And all those issues. And I fight so relentlessly together with my friends of the community. Right.
We thank you, and you are now made an honorary member of our steering committee.
It's a mutual thing. It's a mutual thing. It's a teamwork. If we do not becoming vocal, who else will do it? Right? Like this thing. If you guys did not initiate the whole thing, would anybody from above say they will airborne something? Hey, Chinese veteran recognition, they will not do that, right? So now we're over time. I know we're way over time, but I still wish there were 200 minutes in an hour so that we can go on. Once again, I would like to reintroduce everybody. I have Betty Tom Chu, former mayor of Monterey Park, former attorney, former banker, former candidate for Congress, and she is the senior member of Orange County Citizen Alliance. And he, Mr. John G., Chairman President of the National Citizen Alliance.
Orange County
Citizen Alliance. And he was one of the initiators of the Great Bill, right? And Mark Ng, founder and CEO of Asian Industry B2B, a big friend of mine who I respect a lot. He is the one, he has the charisma that he can put people together, and that is the best part I see in you.
And there's also thousands of people that are being put together.
Yes, all right. And also, you are a humble guy too, right? So, and who is not present today, Young Kim. I did speak to her last time about her helping in fast tracking the whole thing. And Ed Royce, congressman, who have served us for 36 wonderful years and glorious years. So at the very end, his last act of the whole service of 36 was this beautiful historical bill that is already come into United States law. All right, that said, we thank our audience for watching, and we thank each of you on behalf of my audience, my team, for coming here, and for what you have done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, let's all wave to our audiences.